The problem with the prompt tracking is that they're just infinite prompts. You could just go on forever and ever and ever and still not scratch the surface. And also, a lot of the times there is no prompt. Prompt tracking is a vanity metric, but topic analysis in an LLM is a proactive metric.
So you discovered through Waiky that LLMs were calling InLinks a rank checking service.
One of the LLMs was saying InLinks is a rank checking service like SEMrush or Ahrefs or search engine ranking. InLinks doesn't do that. InLinks has never scraped the search results. What I think is important though is that the context is important. The link is not the magic bit. The context is the magic bit. Make sense?
Welcome back to the Agency Insider Show. I'm your host, Navneet Kaushal, founder and CEO of Page Traffic. I've been running an SEO agency for 23 years now, and I've got to tell you, the conversations we are having today are completely different from what we were discussing even 2 years ago. Today's guest needs little introduction if you have been in SEO for any length of time. Dixon Jones is someone who has been at the absolute forefront of how search engine understands content. First, though his work building Majestic into intelligent linked platform, and now CEO of InLinks, the entity-based semantic SEO tools that's actually becoming essential for agencies serious about AI-ready optimization. But here's what makes this conversation particularly timely. Dixon recently launched Waiky. I don't know if I'm spelling it right.
We can talk about why it's called whatever you've just said, yeah.
Okay. And he's written the definitive book on Entity SEO, which recently is getting very much popular. So Dixon, welcome to the Agency Insider Show.
Thank you. Where's the book? Here's the book. Okay. There's the book. You can actually get it in PDF for free now if you track me down somewhere on LinkedIn or whatever. There's some links for it. So the word, the Waiky, it's crazy, right? You can't pronounce it, you can't spell it, and we don't have the .com. It's actually a waiky.io. It sounds like a really silly branding idea, because back in the day in search, we used to say, right, you're building an AI visibility tool. Let's call it AIvisibilitytool.com. Exact match words. It turns out in LLMs, in large language models, that's actually quite a dangerous thing to do. It becomes much harder for your brand, if you're using generic words, to connect to the concept that you're trying to understand. So we've used, and we're pronouncing it Waiky. And we're doing that because it's alliterative, but you can pronounce it any way you want. And the fact that everyone's not getting it, everyone's going to. The whole point of it is that you can't pronounce, you don't quite know until you know what it stands for. And it stands for what AI knows about you. And the idea is that it's a word that doesn't mean anything. So it will get associated with the right things as it builds up its brand. And when you're in a lift or at a conference or on a podcast, you have to say what it stands for to get it across, at which point I've sold the product. That's the idea anyway. So we'll see if it works.
Yeah. It's not because you are a Star Wars fan. It sounds from a Star Wars movie.
Actually, it seems, I think it's a Cantonese or Chinese name is the most common use of it. There's a surname with Waiky. Since Waiky works in Chinese, I'm happy. If the Chinese get on board and start using it, that's an extra few billion people I can get into the fold.
Okay, all right. So let's jump right into something which you recently wrote about, which actually caught my attention: the distinction between prompt tracking and entity influence when it comes to AI optimization.
Yeah. Explain the question.
Just about to explain. So most agencies I talk to are stuck in a prompt tracking mood, monitoring what ChatGPT says about their clients and reacting when something's wrong. So can you walk me through why that's the fundamentally wrong approach and what entity influence actually means in practice?
Yeah. Okay. So fundamentally wrong. I believe it's wrong, but I may be wrong. So, but here's my logic. Prompt tracking has been developed by us as an industry and the tool makers like Waiky, out of the concept of rank checking on, so the tools that were doing rank checking in traditional search, they've kind of taken that mindset and dived over and said, we need a tool that does that for AI,
Right.
output and prompts and things, which makes intuitive sense at the start. But it's well, even with rank checking is the end point, isn't it? It's kind of like, if you rank #1 for Viagra, great, you've done well. It doesn't tell you how to rank for #1 for Viagra. So so the way that we thought about it was differently. When we actually launched Waiky, we didn't even have a prompt tracking module. We were launched well, months back, not years anyway, and we didn't have a prompt tracking module. We do now, and actually today it's just got much better. But anyway, the way I see it is that if you are doing commercial prompt tracking, so what is the best hotel in Delhi or whatever it may be, then that's kind of at this point. So if you've got vanity metrics at the bottom of the scale and proactive recommendations at the top of the scale, then really prompt tracking is telling you lots of vanity stuff. Are you there? Are you getting cited? Are you doing well? And of course, if you're IBM and somebody asks about, what's the biggest computing company in the world, or sorry, Microsoft or Google, what's the biggest computer company in the world, you've got a pretty good chance of being there. But it wasn't because of your LLM activity or optimization. It's because of your brand. So better, and the approach that we took is, and the other problem with the prompt tracking is that they're just infinite prompts. You could just go on forever and ever and ever and still not scratch the surface. And also, a lot of the times there is no prompt. So an example of where you might use an LLM is I email you and say, hey, Navneet, I need some SEOs near you. Can you suggest a few? I'm sorry, I can't use you on this occasion for this, whatever. And you don't really care, but you want to stay nice to Dixon. So you press on your Outlook or whatever and say, reply giving 3 other SEOs, or respond to this email with giving some examples. And
Right.
so your prompt technically is respond to this email or draft a reply with some examples. That's your response. That's the prompt. And it's going to go back. It's going to read my email. It's going to come and figure everything out and write something back.
Right.
What prompt are you tracking there? I mean, do you really want to be seen for reply to this email? That's not a good prompt. So the workflow is bad for using prompt tracking. So what we decided was the reason that we've called it What AI Knows About You, and even if you don't use the tool, the approach, I think, is the right approach. You're better off going and saying to an LLM, what do you know about my brand? Or what do you know about my brand in the context of this product that I want to sell? And try not to lead the LLM too much, and let the LLM come up with some ideas.
Okay.
Then you'd say, right, now who's my competitor in this product? What do they know about that product in the context of this thing? And what do they know about this competitor in the context of this thing? Now you've got 3 lots of output. You've got what AI knows about your brand, what AI knows about the competitor brands. Now you've got a gap analysis. Now you've got a plan, because you can start to say, right, this brand over here is talking about this concept and this concept, or AI is knowing it for this concept and this concept. I need to do these things to increase my relevance, so I've got better chance of being seen by the LLMs. So it's a proactive approach. And that's why I think that prompt tracking is a vanity metric, but topic analysis in an LLM is a proactive metric.
Right. That's actually a better approach, I think, because what we see with all the tools is you put your website or you put your company name, give one word, and it's going to take out 10 prompts. Okay, who is the best personal lawyer around me and blah, blah, blah. And just going to say, okay, this is 10 rankings. Do you rank or not? And that's it. So it doesn't have any entity associations, as we will eventually talk.
That's not optimization. That's analytics. I mean, really, I think, absolutely. Right. And I think as well, that approach, the approach of prompt tracking, it doesn't bear any resemblance to your actual business, right? So by doing it, by analyzing your existing business and your existing website is a point of truth, and then and then working from there, your business hopefully is slightly different to every other business. You've got something that's different in your story. Every brand should have a point of difference, as is we're doing this topic down approach, not this prompt, this prompt up approach. So for example, so we're trying to have a point of difference, but every business should. And it doesn't matter whether your point of difference is I'm the only one in London, or I'm the only one in, or I'm the only one with a blue background, maybe something a bit more strong than that. But, you need your own story. We all need our own story. People don't buy unless there's a story behind it that they have an affinity with.
Okay. So, so now let's get a little more tactical. So you discovered through Waiky that LLMs were calling InLinks a rank checking service. Completely wrong.
That's yeah. So InLinks is our other tool, our Entity SEO tool. For I know you mentioned it at the start. For those who don't know, and one of the things that we do in Waiky is we're asking the LLMs, what do you know about, well, in this case, InLinks, and it's coming back with a whole thing. So we're asking a bunch of different LLMs, what do you know about InLinks, or what do you know about InLinks in the context of this? But it was coming back, and one of the LLMs was saying InLinks is a rank checking service like SEMrush or Ahrefs or search engine ranking, and we're not. InLinks doesn't do that. InLinks has never scraped the search results. So so it's one of the things that we've done in Waiky is we've taken all of the output of LLMs, and then we've synthesized those into one sentence facts. So it becomes very easy to go and check the facts associated with either your brand or any other brand. So, and this is, the bigger your brand, the more important this becomes, because, if you're getting bad reviews or something like that, then maybe this is popping up as a thing. But factual errors, like you've got a product that isn't there, that becomes a real challenge for a brand, because if you allow that incorrect fact to seed within an LLM, it's a little bit like, I mean, all over the world now, we see stories that are not true that propagate all over the world. And somebody has gone and said a lie out on social media. It's caught the attention of people, and it's ballooned into something that's just not true. If that happens in LLMs, it becomes as difficult to remove as a fact as it is in the human, population as well. When humans believe something that isn't true, we believe it en masse, and we just propagate a lie. So it's better to get these facts tracked at source and try and find the source. So what we did on this particular one is we were able to go and find the actual LLM prompt that had come back. We looked at the source that had been cited when they said InLinks is a rank checker. We went back to it, and it turned out that it was actually a review of InLinks, a positive review of InLinks. Somebody had taken the time. We hadn't even noticed this review. We hadn't paid them or anything. They'd done this review of InLinks, which was nice, but they had added it as a feature. We're a rank checking. So we reached out to them, and it turned out to be so much easier than trying to get links the old way. We actually went out and said, brilliant, thank you very much for that post. So I'm sorry we didn't see it before. It's got one factual error. Do you mind fixing it? Of course, they don't want bad facts on their site, so they fixed the error, and it changed. And I think a word like InLinks, we've got more chance of having factual errors, because again, InLinks can be seen as backlink, or it's got some kind of synonyms and connotations. So words like InLinks or Majestic or words that are generic, it's more likely that there's going to be errors. So there's an agency, digital agency. I use Jason Hennessy in too many of these podcast examples, so I apologize to Jason Hennessy, but he has a business, a digital agency in LA, I think, Hennessy.com, but it's Hennessy with an EY. If you asked LLMs, when I launched the tool, if you asked LLMs what they knew about Hennessy, the brand, there was a lot of information getting mixed up with the cognac and also with an auto tuning company and stuff. So there were, a generic word that can mean other things. You're more likely to get factual errors and misalignments, or hallucinations, as we call them. So I think it's important for a brand to fix those at the start of a relationship with LLM optimization.
Yeah. So for agencies managing dozens of clients, what's the systematic process? How do we move from finding the problem to building a prevention system?
So on the fact checking, it's very easy because on Waiky it is anyway. But again, you don't have to use Waiky to do this, but it just mechanically makes it a lot easier. I don't mean to be an advert for Waiky for the I'm trying to understand explain the process. Right. But what we do is we build a knowledge graph of a website. So we start by saying your business is your business. What you put it, you do it yourself. It's a self-serve thing, but your business is your business. So what you say on your website has to be true. If it isn't true, then that's your fault, and we'll still pick it up. But we build this picture of what your website is, what your business is about, based on the content on your website. And if you've done decent SEO or even modest SEO, it should get all of that information correct, right?
Right.
And so now when you ask an LLM, hey, what do you know about this brand? The LLM doesn't necessarily get all the information from the website, but it might do. So it's going to get a lot of the information from the website. It's going to get the information from other websites out there. We're finding a lot of review sites are getting cited in LLM responses and things, and that's not surprising. If you want, the top 10 hotels in Paris, then it's going to come up with lots of lists of hotels in Paris with little explainers, nice small chunks of text that an LLM can eat up and compare, different brands. So those kind of pages are getting cited quite a lot, but that's also where the hallucinations start to come from, because those list writers are usually writing content as fast as they can. They don't necessarily check their facts. They don't feel that they've got the gravitas of the BBC to, if they get it wrong, are they going to get sued by Trump or something? They don't have that feeling of getting something wrong is a problem for them. So then the LLM will come up with facts, and so the making it very easy, and this is where it just becomes easier using Waiky, is getting it literally into, here are all the facts for the brand, and you could just scan down them, check them or flag them for a warning. So if you're an agency, paid traffic, what you do is you go and have a quick look down there and say, well, I don't know the business as well as they know the business. I'm the agency. All I can do is say that needs a little bit more of a check. So we'll tick those ones because they look dodgy. These ones are all fine. Most of the time they're all fine, but these ones we maybe need to check. Next time we have a meeting, you might want to just scan these, and if there is an issue, go back and try and find the source, and we can fix the issue. If there's no issue, then fine. But it's something that you need to do at the start of a relationship with, as I say, AI optimization. It's not something you have to do every day, but it just makes it very, very easy. So we can really start fact checking within 10 minutes of setting up a project, and you've got all the facts there. So you then have, every project, you've got you just set up a project. And so we've got one client on the system that's got, well, they're scaling up now, and they're going to be putting 1,000 websites, 1,000 companies on the system. So all on the one screen. So hopefully our search functionality works on this. So it will scale pretty well. But then if you want to go into more depth, you can then say, right, I want it around this topic, around this topic, and around this topic. So the fact checking can carry on going, but it's very quick each time to find the find the errors, and then you move on to other bits of the system, other bits of the optimization. But if you haven't got the foundations right, if the AI thinks you're a barber's and you're actually a dentist, you've got a problem, right?
Right. Now, you have said that mentions now matters more than links to AI visibility, of course.
I did say that. Yeah.
So that LLMs form understanding based on trusted mentions, even without direct backlinks. Now, this is a massive shift for agencies built on link acquisition. Can you quantify this? So, for example, let's say if I'm an agency owner right now, should I be relocating budget from link building to mention building? And what's the new ratio?
Okay, right. So I'm not going to give you a ratio because I will be wrong. That's the one thing I can guarantee. But let me explain I think link building is still absolutely great, because what you're trying to do in link building essentially is going back to the PageRank model, the maths of the PageRank. The more the more quality pages that link to you in context, the more a user is going to come to your website and understand your brand. And I always used to think about links as citations in a way anyway. So and I always thought about it in context. I always said, look, there's only two ways that people get to your website. One, they type in www.yourwebsite.com. Two, they click on a link. That's the only two ways that people get to your website. That's it. So of course, links. I mean, I don't care who says links aren't important. You can't get to a website without a link. It may not be in a search result. It may not be a link on a web page, but there's a link. What I think is important, though, is that the context is important. There's no point in you. So the Hennessy example, for example, back in the day, the reason that Hennessy.com had got associated with a auto-tuning company is that there was another brand in Los Angeles called Hennessy that was a auto-tuning company. And way back in the day when it made sense, they colluded with each other, and they said, look, you've got some visitors coming here. We kind of want to differentiate. So why don't you say we are on this about page? Why don't you say we are not the SEO company? Go to here for the SEO company. Now it turns out the word SEO company is on the Hennessy auto-tuning page, and presumably the auto-tuning they've done some kind of explainer for each person. So now the LLMs, when they're reading things in chunks, and they don't actually follow the link. So if there's a link there, that's great. That's great if there's a link there. There's some clarity as to what they mean, but it's really the words around there that are giving the LLM all of the context. So the principle is the same. The link is not the magic bit. The context is the magic bit. Make sense?
Right. All right. So
don't give up your link building. Well, you can give up your link building, but I think that you're going to be then building up citations, and that's effectively the same thing as link building. And whether there's a link there or not, another way of saying it is all Wikipedia links are no follow. Do you not want a link on Wikipedia? I'll take the link.
In fact, no follow links still has weightage no matter what Google says. We all know that.
Yeah. Well, I think Google has accepted that the whole no follow narrative was a failure. The original idea for no follow was back in the Penguin days, when they were trying to give people a way to link to a website but not get penalized for doing so. But what people then did was then build no follow links into every comment on WordPress. It was built into the tools and stuff like that. And people said, well, that's fine. So the only links that were no follow were the ones that were likely to influence the search engine. So actually, I think that they made a strategic mistake. They were trying to do the best of intentions by creating the no follow tag, but it didn't achieve what they did. So I would imagine that they just don't care whether it's a no follow or not now.
So now, So now when you say entity influence, you are essentially talking about making a brand or a person a recognized concept, as you mentioned, in a knowledge graph. Now,
Yeah,
most small businesses aren't getting Wikipedia pages. So what's the
yeah,
practical playbook for agencies to build entity
yeah.
authority for clients who aren't household names beyond
Right.
Crunchbase and IMDb? So what's actually working in 2026?
All right. Okay. So I'm not actually. I mean, of course, if you can get your barbers into Wikipedia, great. That's great. But most of us can't. You know, I'm not expecting Waiky to get into Wikipedia anytime soon. I'm still trying to build it up as a brand. But I'm not. Of course, I want the LLMs and search to understand Waiky in its own right and its own concept, and it will anyway because it's its own organization. So it's got a limited company. We help that along by we've got a registered trademark for Waiky. You know, there's things that you can do that are pretty solid that defines a brand. But
Right.
that's not what I'm trying to do with Entity SEO, particularly. It is what a lot of other people are trying to do with Entity SEO. But here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say that your brand needs to be closely associated with the entities, with the things that you do, and a long way from the things that you don't do. So if I take a brand like Shell Oil, for example, Shell is a good example, actually, because, of course, the word Shell mostly means something on a beach, you know,
Right.
and it certainly doesn't mean something oil drilled out of the sea, you know. So so the brand Shell needs to make sure, well, if it wants to be associated with oil, then it needs to be able to make sure that it talks about things around oil. Actually,
Right.
Shell's probably got a lot more challenges because, of course, they also want to talk about the environment because they want to try and, you know, protect their brand and stuff. And so they're going to have this overlap between Shell's on a beach and Shell's a brand. And I think that back in the 60s, well, whenever Shell was formed, you know, that was all fine. It was nothing happened here. I think if it started today, I wouldn't start an oil company with the brand name of Shell because I would want to take a word that was distance from, you know, that I could clearly differentiate from other meanings of the same word. So what I'm trying to do with Entity SEO is say, right, your brand is your brand. It's small, but it's going to grow, but it needs to grow around the concepts that you actually sell, not things that are semantically distant. So going and
Okay.
getting links that are not contextually relevant, for example, or citations on directories that are not contextually relevant, very bad idea, because all of the signals that you're sending are that your brand is associated with something that is semantically distant from what you're actually selling. So it's not about getting the Wikipedia page, although that is a great end game, or a great if you can do it, or links from Wikipedia pages. But it's building up to that point. It's making sure that every time your brand is cited, it's cited maybe with your competitor, alongside your competitors, alongside the products and services that you offer. That's what Entity SEO is.
Okay, now, so here's what a lot of agencies struggle. We can measure rankings, traffic, conversions. Now, how do we measure entity influence? And how do I go to a client and say, we have strengthened your entity presence by
Yeah.
X%? And what metrics should agencies be tracking and reporting?
I think this is a big narrative for 2026, and actually, I think I've put it in as my suggestion in the Majestic SEO's, you know, predictions for 2026 thing. Trying to find what to measure is the thorny issue for everybody right now in LLMs. For me, what we've done is we've said, right, it doesn't matter whether you're a big brand or a small brand. The question is, how accurately are you portrayed by the LLMs? Are you better defined than your competitors that are competing for the same product and the idea. And that turns out to be an easier thing to measure than are you getting more prompts or whatever. Because as I said, the prompt may be respond to this email with a few examples. You know, that might be the prompt that the LLM gets. And so I think that what you can do with knowledge graphs and with entities is you can take the content of a website and turn it into a knowledge graph. So knowledge graph is, think of Wikipedia. You know, everything that refers to a Wikipedia article, you know, just translate a web page into a bunch of database items in Wikipedia. You know, it turns it into numbers. And then you can say, right, what do you know about this, or tell me about this? And the LLM will also come out with text, which you can also turn into a bunch of numbers. And what you have then is all the topics in this group and all the topics in this group, and you can do multiple mathematical operations that just sit there and say, are these similar? You know, how similar are these things? Right. And you can turn that into a number between 0 and 100. It's not a percentage, but it's a number between 0 and 100 or 1 and 10, you know, whatever it may be. And so I think that is the thing to check and to validate, because if the LLM perfectly understands your brand and gets everything right, you've got very little else to do apart from going out and getting link building, and then your brand building, you know. So the brand building still is a thing, you know. The more people that talk about you, the better. And that goes back to link building, that goes back to citations, that goes back to advertising, it goes back to, you know, convincing people. It comes coming on podcasts, you know. These are really important things. The more that happens, the more your brand is going to build up. The LLM doesn't, you know, can only do two things. It can say, right, is this the most accurate answer for the user, and is it the most popular answer for the user? The most popular answer, that's branding. And then the most accurate answer, that's you. That's what SEOs can do.
Okay.
So yeah. So you can measure that out of, so basically 2 knowledge graphs, what the LLM says, what your website says, knowledge graphs, map it, and then it gives you a number between 0 and 100. Whether it catches on, I don't know, but it works for me.
So when you talk about knowledge entities, so a lot of people these days talk about LLM.txt. So can we use that just to feed knowledge entity data to LLMs, or you are not a fan?
Not easily. So yeah, I'm sure we have all in the SEO industry gone to, and I can promise I have as well. So, you know, gone to, an LLM and said, hey, what's the best link tool out there? What do you mean? And then the next thing is, why didn't you put Majestic in that list? And then what do I need to do to put Majestic in this? And next time, can you make sure that Majestic is in the list? And the LLM will say, yeah, sure. That's just doing it in your context. It's not, you're not going to influence the LLM that way. What you will do is you'll fool yourself, because it is increasingly remembering what you've been doing and what you've been saying. So next time you go and say, what is the best link tool out there? The LLM is going to, you know, say, oh yeah, Majestic, you know, it's a brilliant one, you know. And I think that's a fool's errand. I've done it. I'm doing it. I still do it. I can't not do it. It's just, I want the LLM to recognize me more than the other guys, but I can't do it that way. Everybody else will start with a blank sheet, and you can just go back to the system, go in incognito mode, and make sure you're not logged into the system. Ask again, and it's lost all that information. So the way the LLMs get influenced is really only 2 different ways. Either in its training data, which is the magic, that's the pure magic, but it takes a long time. So very occasionally, or hopefully less occasionally, or more frequently as time goes on, the LLM is relearning how to read. It's learning things from scratch. It's going to all the books in the British Library. I describe it as an LLM will go and read all the books in the British Library, and that will teach it how to read and how to learn. Now, a lot of brands are in that. You know, Penguin, the publishers will be in that for sure. You know, and the IBMs and Microsofts will be in that for sure. the brands for, like, you know, for me, I'm not going to be in the British Library. Well, maybe I wrote a book called Entity SEO. If only I'd given one to the British Library, as I'm legally required to do, by the way. But that's the end. That's the game, and that's great. Of course, LLMs have not picked up all the information, so this is why they have to rely on RAG search results to augment that information. So this is why a lot of SEOs are saying LLM optimization is just good SEO. You know, if you're good SEO, then you're going to be in the search results, and that's right. That's all true, but it's only part of it. If you're in the training data, even better. If you've created some accuracy between your concepts and your brand and what you do, even better. But the search results then are overwhelming things. So in the short term, yeah, SEO is still about, or LLM SEO, or whatever letters we're going to call it, is all about doing SEO. But in the longer term, getting into the training data and getting your brand closely associated with the kind of things that people are asking, the much longer queries. It's not about SEO in the terms of best hotel. You know, that's not something that people really are looking for when they're using LLMs. What they're doing is saying, we're going with 3 kids and they want some sun, sea, and surf, but also I need a quiet evening and we need a kids care place or creche or whatever. You know, they're asking a whole load of different things, so they're filtering out and checking those things. And for SEOs, the game was all about traffic to the website. So in search engine optimization, the game is 10 blue links, or whether it's universal search or other bits and pieces, the feature snippets or whatever. But the game is get the user to the website, and then the user is converted on the website. You can't do that in LLMs. The workflow is different, because the LLM, the question is, what is the best hotel? And the user will get all of their information compacted into the LLM response. They will already have made the buying decision before they click. So I bought a $3,000 computer over here last year, because I wanted to have something where I could put a local LLM on my machine. That's kind of needs quite a lot of power to do that. So I did a lot of searching on LLMs to find out the spec you needed. I then went to Amazon to try and find the best one. I used I used another LLM to find the closest spec to the one I wanted, found some, used another LLM to check the spec was right, bought the machine for $3,000. It was only after I bought the machine that I realized I'd never been to the website. I didn't know the brand that I'd purchased from. There were no reviews for this machine on Amazon. My whole decision-making process had been based on analyzing different things, because what I needed was a spec I'd never come across before. I didn't know what spec I needed to run LLMs on locally. Right. So I'd made all the decisions using the software. It works fine. It's great. It's a good machine. But my point is, if you're using traffic as your KPI, well, you would have missed my sale.
Okay. Let's move to our next segment, which is the new value of links in AI world. Now, let me be direct. Do links still means as much as today as they used to? Because you help build Majestic literally on the premises that links are the currency on the web. Now, what's your honest assessment in 2026? Are we seeing diminishing returns, or has the value simply shifted?
I think the context, if you can measure the contextual relevance of a link, then that's the most important thing. It's not about anymore the page rank of the page it's coming from, or the domain authority of the page it's coming from, or whatever it may be. I think it's the contextual relevance of that link. So, but then again, as I say, in some contexts, the link is just happens as a result of it. The user, the writer, wants to help the user and also wants to have links coming out of the page. So I still maintain that links are well, I go back to the point that the only way that people get around the internet, that's the only way people travel around the internet. And so
Right.
they're as important from that perspective as they always have been. And they also provide a very valuable signal to algorithms that any algorithm can use. So every page on the internet in Google has got a page rank. Yeah, it has got a value, and it's probably got a topical page rank in there, and they've got that data. So you could have any module over here. Maybe you've got a sort of a module for news, NFL news, I know, or something, and Google sort of has lots of information about NFL news, for example, National Football League, the
Right.
American, the football that no one else in the world plays apart from the Americans, and so any of these algorithms, any of these thousands of engineers at Google could call upon multiple metrics that they have associated with any piece of content in any algorithm. So yes, I think absolutely links are important. Links are important to associate your brand with the right kind of context. I think it's harder to sell that in a big wide world, but I still think it's a highly relevant mechanism to getting your brand better seen on the internet.
Now, here's something practical. When LLMs cite sources, they often cite dead links or completely fabricated URLs at time.
Yeah.
Now, you have talked about this. Now, from an agency perspective, what does this mean for a link building strategy? Are we building links for Google algorithm, for LLM citations, or both? And do these require different approaches?
Right. They do require a little bit of a different approach, because if you've got an LLM response that cites 5 different pages on the internet, a Reddit page, a Zoom info page, or whatever page, the difference is that in SEO, we're thinking about that citation as a link to your website, as something that individuals will travel down and look to the website. That's not what is happening. That citation, the important thing about that citation is not about having that citation on the page, but it's going back to that page, reading the content that's on that page, and seeing if that context is reinforcing your brand messaging and your business, or is it detracting from it. So one of the things that I've been working on is where websites have been cited in LLM responses around my brand, going back to those websites and seeing if I can update them, change them, improve them, make them more full. Because what has happened to have that link there is that the LLM has found some information about your brand and has found a sentence or a concept that they want to cite, that they want to tell the user that's using the LLM, and they've said something there. That means that there may be a bunch of other things you can tell at that point. So if they're using those pages to find out information about your brand, then great. You can also use that on your competitors, and that really starts to work. So you can start to say, well, where are my competitors getting their citations from? Let's go to those websites. Let's go and try and get our message out on those websites. The LLMs, next time they go around, will hopefully go and see those other messages. They'll now associate your brand with the competitor's brand, and they'll associate your brand with this data source as well. And you've got much more chance that when a completely different prompt comes out that a user types in, or that the LLM is looking up, that your brand is then cited in that state. So I think that the methodology of going out and just getting links from websites to your site still has a use, but from an LLM perspective, it's about getting your message out into places that are not your website, so that the LLM has many different locations to understand where your brand is coming from.
Now, You analyzed Google API leaks and also found out that entities appeared over 500 times, while keywords appears maybe 30, 40 times.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Where do links fit in that leak? Did anything surprise you about how Google actually value links versus entity in that data?
Right. Okay. So for anyone that's out there, what I actually did, there was a Google leak that Mike King and Rand Fishkin put out there, and they put the data out onto some open source place, and I just made it searchable. So you can actually go to DixonJones.com and still look up that data. I think you don't have to log in or anything. It's a bit slow, but it's there. I only analyzed it to a certain point because there are other people that spend their whole life analyzing and trying to re-engineer algorithms. I'm much more of a believer of trying to be confident in your own business plan enough to make it unique, and the uniqueness is what wins on search. So I will be honest with you. I've got all the data, or there's a lot of data there, but I've got no documentation on what all that information means. You're right. The word entities does appear a lot more than keywords, and I think that the few years that have been since that has happened, I think that the industry is really only just getting on board with the idea that entities and mapping entities is better than mapping keywords as we move into the future. It's a more effective way to store information. So if you I've been in it as long as you, Navneet. 23 years sounds about good. Actually, yeah, I started my first one in 1999. So when the internet was starting, of course, Google was trying to index every single page and store things around keywords and stuff, and so it made sense to say, well, the more times that the anchor text of your product vertical links to your website, that's a good signal that they can use. But as things have moved on, storing the world's information by web page is not so good as storing the world's information by concept. So the concept of climbing versus the concept of running versus the concept of hill walking, all similar concepts. And so lots of pages will mention all of those three concepts at the same time. Hill walking and mountain hiking, maybe they're the same thing. Maybe they're as good as the same thing, but they're concepts. And so it's easier for a machine at scale to build out the information around concepts and then see where it's getting that information from, rather than to build out the information around web pages and then see what in each of those pages is about. So there are about, let's say, 400 billion, say, concepts in the world, and it doesn't matter how many more times you type write a web page on how to tie a bow tie. There's no more information on it. We know how to tie a bow tie, or we don't know how to tie a bow tie, but the web does. And so storing information around ideas is much more efficient, because in a year from now, there will still only be 400 billion ideas out there. So it's just, getting around the edges. It doesn't have to double its information, whereas the number of web pages is doubling every month. So it's just going up and up and up and up. The amount of information that's coming into a system like Google is not going up and up and up and up. Of course, things happen, but not in the same sort of scale. So they had to, at some point, say we can't store the world's information by web page anymore. We need to start storing it by start searching it by concept. So that's why they bought MetaWeb in 2014 and started to organize the world in terms of entities.
Okay. Now, so trust flow was one of the Majestic's key innovations. Now, measuring link quality, not just quantity. If you were building trust flow today with AI in mind, what would you measure differently, and what's the trust flow equivalent for the AI age?
Well, I think that if I was CTO at Majestic now, I would be. I really love Topical Trust Flow. It's something they've got, and it's still unique to Majestic to this day. And I would love it if Majestic was to update the idea of the topics. So at the moment, well, last time I looked, Majestic's Topical Trust Flow. To anyone that doesn't know, Majestic, it's a bit like Ahrefs or SEMrush in that they've got backlink data or Moz, but they have this trust flow metric which says that a link from a website that we know and is trusted by humans is worth more than a link that is not, and it propagates the information a little bit like the PageRank maths, but it's biased towards websites that were written, web pages that were written by humans. Topical Trust Flow is a magical element on top of that, because they have some concept of what the web page is about. So they've categorized the web, and I think there's about 1,000 different categories that they've topics in the Majestic system of what a web page is about. And what they can do, and they've kind of categorized the trusted stuff that they had, and then they've said, right, let's say this page is about dentists and barbers in the and so dentists and barbers might get categorized into retailers or health professionals or something like that, and then but then these web pages are a little bit about this, a little bit about this, a little bit about this. Then all the links that go out there can then be mathematically modeled again, so you can then say, right, the inbound links to this page, I'm getting some from a health websites, some from finance websites, some from gambling websites, whatever it may be. And so it can then filter what this website is influenced by and give this concept of topical trust flow, which you can then propagate onto the next anything that it links out of. And it does this for the whole of the internet. And it's a really clever idea. And when I was at Majestic, it was probably the most exciting thing that I saw at Majestic. There's a lot of, Majestics are just a brilliant company. Honestly, people just do not know how powerful that machine is. Well, I say machine, it's probably 3 data centers size. But anyway, I would like, if I had my way, for the whole of the topics in Majestic to start getting expanded into entities, so that they can then propagate that kind of idea in a much more granular level. I would imagine that's a massive job for Majestic to do, but it would be great if I was doing it.
Now, right. So now let's talk about building to our final segment, building proactively AI first agency operations. Now, most agencies operate reactively. Algorithm updates, hits, client panics, we scramble. You have advocated for a fundamentally proactive approach. What does proactive actually means in a practice? For example, if I'm an agency owner listening right now, what's the first operational change I should make tomorrow morning?
The first operational change you should make tomorrow morning is stop and understand what the founder of that business is trying to do if they hadn't heard about search engine optimization. That you need to propagate the business's ideas, not just lay over SEO on top of a business. So at a technical level, that is build a knowledge graph for the website. At a technical level, that is go through the website with an Excel spreadsheet and note down how many times the different pages are different ideas are cited. Or at the technical level, that is doing something, just going to an LLM and say, please give me an overview of what this business does. Because so many SEOs have their methodology that is something they can map on, that they think they can map onto any business, but their methodology never stops to think why this business is different to all the other businesses that do the same thing. And you're not, you know, and the business should have thought about that, and they should have thought about that potentially over many, many years. And they're very, very strong about their point of difference. So the first thing you should do differently is stop and analyze what they've done to date, and not just in SEO, you know, what they've done for their business, you know, what the traumas they've faced, the cash flow issues, the, you know, whatever it may be, but get into the head of the business owners and then propagate their story, not the SEO overlay. This keyword has more volume than the other one story.
Now, you built InLinks because traditional SEO tools weren't designed for entity-based optimization, and you now build Waiky, and you built Waiky for AI reputation monitoring. Now, beyond your own tool, what does a complete tech stack looks like for an agency that wants to be genuinely AI first? What are the non-negotiable tools you will recommend for 2026?
I think if you, it's hard for me to answer that question because obviously I'm biased. However, what I would say is I think the future for agencies should really start around the idea of thinking about agentic approach. So you want to be different, just like all the brands you're working with have a different story. You want a different story as well. Every agency is going to want a different story. So a good approach would be to start with something like Looker Studio or Power BI or some kind of presentation system that you can brand your way, and then think about tools that have got APIs. So rather than presenting to your client, you know, the SEMrush output or the Ahrefs output or the InLinks output, what you really want to do is to produce your own narrative, your own display, your own information, calling upon the APIs of the tools that you're going to use. So that will allow you to do something that none of the tools can do. So all of the tools can do some things. What you can do as an agency is you can take the best bits of the tools that you like for your vertical, for your methodologies, and then display something that is entirely unique to your customer base with entirely unique ideas and thoughts, that takes, you know, the trust flow data from Majestic and combines that with the AI visibility data from Waiky or whatever it may be. So you can have your own data basically. So I think that that's the way in which every agency can be different, and it can be different and better than any individual tool, because no individual tool will ever do everything.
Okay. Now when I hire an SEO specialist today, the job is fundamentally different from what it was 5 years ago. Now, what skills should agencies be hiring for that they probably not? And if you're building an SEO team from scratch in 2026, what would the organization chart look like?
I don't know, Navneet. I'm a great believer at the end of a, you know, if you don't know the answer to a question, say so. I don't know the answer to that question. I think that different agencies will have different fortes. You know, if you're focusing just on local SEO in America, that's going to be a very different thing to if you've got companies that are, you know, based in the Philippines and providing international services or whatever. So I think it's going to be different for each person. I'm not an agency. I ran an agency from 1999 to about 2008, still going, Receptional. I'd have no part of it now, unfortunately, because it's doing better than when I ran it. They've moved over to, they do a lot of PPC, they do site builds, they do a lot of visual stuff that, you know, that I didn't do. But every different agency is going to be different, and I can't answer your question. What I would say is if you're building an SEO agency from scratch right now, well done, mate, because there's a lot of people finding it hard.
Right. Now, with that, I came to my final question. So you have said that the businesses needs to be number 1 or 2 in their niche or get out.
I didn't actually say that so much as some famous marketing person said that, and I quoted them. But yes, yeah.
So does that apply?
Yeah, the quote was either be one or two in your niche, or be in a position to be one or two in your niche within a year or two, or get out of the business. That was more or less the quote from whoever said it. Yeah.
So my question is, does that apply to agencies too? In a world where AI can generate content, analyze data, and even build links, what's the core value proposition that keeps agencies relevant and irreplaceable?
Well, the root of it, the value intent is the relationship with your customer base, I think, with your clients. So one thing you can't take away from an agency that is close to their clients is that relationship, that understanding, that personal understanding of the business that they're with. And then on the other side of it, what you can't take away from that agency is that the client hasn't got the energy and the time to learn about all the tools, or to put any energy necessarily into doing search engine optimization, because they're too busy servicing their clients in the auto tuning industry or in the whatever they do. I'm a great believer in making sure that you do the thing that you're good at to the best of your ability, and allow somebody else and pay somebody else to do the thing that they're good at to the best of their ability. I have a window cleaner that comes. I pay the window cleaner. I'm rubbish at window cleaning. I don't have a pole that goes that high up, so I'd have to get a big ladder and fall off it and break my neck. There's a bunch of other bits and pieces, and the window cleaner is cleaning 100 windows a day, or 100, I don't know how many houses a day, and that's what they do, and they're good at that. If I was going to window clean, then I should window clean for a living. I shouldn't do SEO or SEO tools. So I think that there's that relationship with the business, and the understanding that the business doesn't want to do SEO or doesn't want to do digital marketing. Really, what they want to do is to fix the cars that they fix in their garage, or cut the hair of the people that come into their shop and stuff. So you're a partner for them. And that relationship is a partnership that won't be disintegrated just because another tool comes onto the market.
Right. So with that, we almost we crossed 1 hour mark, and of course we gonna add the show now. And Dixon, thank you for spending this time with us. Your actual perspective actually bridges both the technical and strategic side of where SEO is heading, and more importantly, it gives our audience a clear roadmap for how to adopt. Thank you again for giving
I hope so, but I know I'm not perfect, but I hope that it's being helpful for people.
Yeah, right. And to everyone's listening, if this conversation resonates with you, make sure to subscribe to the Agency Insider Show. We are at over 80 plus episodes now, and we have got more conversations like this coming. Real talk for the agency owners navigating this AI first future. I'm Navneet Kaushal from Page Traffic. Until next time, keep building, keep adapting, and remember, the agencies that understand Entity today will own the AI search results tomorrow. Thank you.